What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Lexalexus. Today it is the championship review. We've got Matchday 22 to go over. We've got 11 matches to go through. We would at this time have Sheffield United play against QPR, but it has been cancelled by a couple of COVID-19 cases in the Queen's Park Rangers squad. Is this going to be the only cancellation due to COVID in the next couple of weeks? We might have to wait and find out. Things could get a little bit difficult with the current circumstances at the moment. But we're here to talk about some football. Now, this is what the current Lexalexus Football Prediction League is looking like. I'm in third position with 8 points, and I've actually closed the gap on the top two a little bit. Got a little bit of breathing space of the competition around me as well. We had some really good performances as well from Lequan and Henry. We also had some good performances from Honeygun and Matt CVSC as well. And I got two correct scores as well, which was a decent weekend. This is what the League One table is looking like. Just a tiny little bit of movement there, especially in the top part of the table, and this is what the League 2 table looks like. But if you guys like what you see, you want to see more content from the championship from me, please do give this video a like. It does tremendously help. Let's aim for 15 likes in this video. Please do hit the subscribe button if you've not done so. It does tremendously help the channel. We're going to try and get to 1,000 subscribers as soon as we can, and please share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that really helps the growth of this channel. But without any further ado, let's review on what went on in these weekend's games. So the early game between Huddersfield and Coventry ended as a 1-1 draw, and it was no less for what Coventry deserved on what I saw in this game. Coventry had chance after chance. They actually had double the amount of shots than what Huddersfield have got, with 12 shots on target as well. You've got to give Neil Nichols some credit. For Coventry to have 12 shots on target and to only concede one goal is pretty good going. But it was Huddersfield who did take the lead in this game. And it was a very worked well goal as well. Lewis O'Brien starting things. Harry Toffolo on the left-hand side doing very well. Finding Danny Ward. It was a great strike. And it was 1-0 Huddersfield. And we saw Huddersfield pick up these clutch home wins before. We saw them beat West Brom by 1-0 and managed to hang on despite not having too much of the ball and creating the chances. But unfortunately in this game, you just had that feeling that Coventry were eventually going to breach forward. Coventry had that never say die attitude, and we saw the amount of stoppage time goals Coventry have scored this season. But they scored another stoppage time goal in this game. A cross came in, Matt Godden header, 1-1, and as simple as that. And it was no less for what they deserved. To reiterate, they definitely deserved at least a point in this game. I think they'd be disappointed they didn't really win this. You know, it took them quite a while for them to actually get some rhythm in this game and to actually get the breakthrough. If they'd got it sooner, there's no doubt in my mind that I think Coventry would have had enough to win this. With Huddersfield, a bit concerning, but what I will say is that if they could just take more of their chances and manage the game better, then I think signs can improve for Huddersfield. But right now, I'm a bit concerned with their form. Next, we go to St Andrews, where Birmingham throw away a 2-goal lead. It ends Birmingham 2, Cardiff City 2. Birmingham have really struggled with their form, only picking up one win in their last 6 games. This would have been a huge win for Birmingham's season if they'd have hung on. They took the lead, which was a brilliantly worked goal, actually starting from their goalkeeper Sarkic. Troy Deeney getting the better out of Perry NG. I think Perry NG needs to be stronger in that situation. But Troy Deeney finishes off the chance to make it 1-0. Sunjic scores the second one, and it was a nicely worked goal again, and actually starting from their own half again. So Birmingham really effectively scoring and creating chances on the break, and I believe it was their only 2 shots they had in that half as well, and both occasions were goals. So unbelievably clinical Birmingham were in that game. But in the second half, Cardiff really were determined to get something, and I've said it before with Cardiff that they really do thrive for the second half with the comebacks that they've managed to achieve. They got a consolation with Kiefer Moore scoring. It was a bit concerning from a Birmingham defensive point of view. If you notice the build up to the goal, it turned to a 3 versus 1, so I have no idea why the Birmingham defenders had such a high line in lead up to the goal, but Kiefer Moore made no mistake to make it 2-1. And in the 91st minute, Mark McGuinness rises above everyone, heading home a corner. And Mark McGuinness has been scoring some very crucial goals for this Cardiff side very recently, and I think has really burst onto the scene a little bit in terms of his season. So I'm really pleased for him. It's a good point for Cardiff. I do think a win would have suited them more, but I think Birmingham would be more disappointed to get 2 goals up and to throw it away like that. It definitely feels like to me that there's a bit of frustration going around Birmingham at the moment. So definitely for me, they need to try and look at themselves and think, why are they not getting as strong as a form? Why have they only picked up 1 win in their last 6? They need to try and address that because they're starting to stumble down the table. And then undoubtedly one of the shocks of the weekend, although it probably shouldn't be a shock, Blackburn, the team in form, pick up a win against a Bournemouth team who've not been in brilliant form recently. They are winless in their last 5 games, and they've actually only picked up 3 points in their last 5 games. Blackburn, on the other hand, have been doing really well and actually are unbeaten in their last 6 matches, picking up 5 wins in their last 6. And because of this, Blackburn have cemented their place in 4th place and are 5 points clear of the chasing pack in the top 6, which is really good news for them. Their goals, I mean, the first goal was a little bit scrappy. It probably would have been a Ben Brereton goal. It was a shot that came off the crossbar, but then the rebound came off Ben Pearson's head into the net to make it 1-0. But brilliant build-up for that goal as well. But I would say, and I've seen this before with Bournemouth's defence, they really do not like it when they got to try and attack the ball in the air. Aerially, they're not very strong. It was a cross that led to that first goal, and it was another cross-related goal in terms of a second goal because it came from a corner swung in, John-Paul Van Heck winning the header above everyone to make it 2-0. Now, there's no doubt in my mind Bournemouth did deserve to get a small something out of this game, because in terms of the XG, I think they're in the top 5 teams with the biggest XG. They definitely deserve something with the chances they made, but they just weren't clinical with the ball. You know, Blackburn only had 1 shot on target less than what Bournemouth did, and they only had 31% for balls. So I've got to give credit to Blackburn. They've defended very well and have been clinical. I knew they could be clinical, but I didn't think they'd defend as well against this high attacking Bournemouth side. So I think we've got to take Blackburn a bit seriously. I think this season is showing to me that Blackburn can attack and can compete in this level. It's just a question if they're going to stay in the top 6 at the end of the season. As with Bournemouth, they got to fix their form as soon as they can. West Brom have closed the gap on them by 3 points now. They've got to really tread carefully. Otherwise, they're going to throw away their biggest opportunity to get promoted out of the Championship. And then could this be a huge win for Derby season as they beat Blackpool by 1-0? Now, these were 2 teams not in really good form, and both teams who I think would be quite nervy getting into this game. Although what I will say, in terms of the ball, Derby definitely commanded the play a lot better. Going forward, in terms of the attack momentum, Derby did look better for me. In the highlight reel, it was seeming like they were showing more of Blackpool's chances, which I think was a bit unfair for Derby, to be honest. They both had 2 shots on target, and of course, one of those shots on target for Derby was a goal. It was a brilliantly worked goal as well. You've got to give credit for the creativity that Max Bird did with Tom Lawrence with their 1-2 play, giving the ball to Joswiak as well. A shot which Maxwell kind of saves, but I think the goalkeeper should do better in that position. But Luke Plange, 19 years of age, had the simplest of tasks to smash in the rebound to make it 1-0 to Derby. And I got to say, fair play to Derby for defending as well, because Blackpool did push when they fell behind. But this resilience from Derby and Wayne Rooney's trust on his youth players to actually deliver the performances, I think is exactly what Derby need. They're on 4 points. They still got a mountain to climb, I've got to be honest, to survive. They are still within 17 points of safety. So they're going to need promotion form to get out of this predicament. But if they show a similar spirit for a couple more games, and if they can have this promotion form, then who knows? It will be an unbelievable comeback if they can get themselves out of this. With Blackpool, just like with Birmingham, are really faltering their form. They're winless in 6 now. Blackpool really got to try and fix their form as soon as they can, otherwise they'll be unintentionally dragged into the relegation battle where they've done so well to get 27 points at this stage. Next game between Hull and Bristol City ended as a pretty dramatic 2-2 draw, and it was 2 occasions where Hull City took the lead, but they were pegged back by a very stubborn Bristol City side. Now, Hull City did take the lead, Ryan Longman with the goal. It was a very nicely taken goal, Bentley, you could argue if he had a stronger hand, maybe could have tipped it out, but I think it was one of those finesse shots which had just too much dip for Bentley to keep out. That made the current score 1-0, and I do think it was deserved based on what I saw. But if you look at the stats, they were very, very close. 50-50 in possession. We don't see that often, with 13 shots to 10, so not much separated with chances created. 5 shots on target to 3. There was really not much to separate it. So looking at the stats, I think a draw was potentially the fairest result. Antoine Semenyo got the equaliser, well, the first equaliser at least. It came from a corner. Hull City don't defend it well. Semenyo pokes in the equaliser after hitting the post for the first time to make it 1-1. But moments later, George Honeyman makes it 2-1. A bit of a similar goal that I think Bristol City should do better to clear it. They don't really clear it well. Poor defending on their part. Honeyman fizzes in the rebound to make it 2-1, and I thought Hull City were going to hold on. It was getting to the 90th minute and been doing quite well recently, Hull, keeping their lead, and of course with their strong form, they have really got some confidence in terms of managing the game. But Matty James, wow, what a shot he had from just outside the D. Brilliant position to get the ball past Ingram. 2-2, and I gotta say, a little bit of a snatch and grab from Bristol City, you could argue, with the pattern of the game, but based on the stats, I would say a draw was well deserved. So I would say with both of these teams' positions, 19th and 18th place on the table, I think they've still got a lot more to give. So hopefully, you know, with them moving forward, that they can definitely kick on with the season, because there were two really good teams to watch. Then we saw Luton hold Fulham to a 1-1 draw. This is not the first time we've seen Fulham frustratingly held away from home. This really feels a bit similar to me when they drew against Bristol City. You know, they definitely felt for me that they were playing with so much confidence. Mitrovic scored a header to make it 1-0 to Fulham. But you still had that feeling that if Fulham were going to take rue of their missed chances, Luton can punish you. Because Luton, we've seen with the amount of goals they've scored this season, that if you give them one chance, they'll take it. They only needed one shot on target to get one goal. I mean, you may say it was a bit fortunate, and I would agree. It was quite fortunate based on the possession stats and the chances, but they made a chance count. It was a free kick, I think, delivered by James Bree. Elijah Adebayo with a header to make it 1-1. And you got to say, Luton defended valiantly to keep Fulham out. And right now, what we're seeing is that the top two dropping points consistently. Fulham are now winless in their last 4 matches. So I don't know what's going on with the top two, but they don't want to win games at the moment, which really makes this promotion race a whole lot more open, which is what I want to see. I think it's what every neutral fan wants to see. As of Luton, this may be one of the more unforgettable results, but you got to give them credit. You know, Nathan Jones, another masterclass on his part. They sit pretty in mid-table. Could this be a very crucial win for Peterborough? They beat Millwall by 2-1. Now, Millwall have been a team for me where I've noticed that they've been a bit inconsistent with their form, but they do have this resilience of not losing games. They don't lose too many games. But a lot of the time is that when they take the lead, but especially if they don't command their second half performance, they do get turned over quite a fair bit. And they did take the lead in this game. Scott Malone started the attack on the left-hand side. Jed Wallace does what he does best, running through the back line with so much pace and power. Squares it to find Tom Bradshaw to make it 1-0 to Millwall. And I thought, I got to be honest, it was just going to be a same old routine. Peterborough would grind forward, try and get a goal, but just be frustrated. But we have seen it before with Peterborough. They do play in the second half a lot better, but this time they took their chances, and that is why they've got a result. Taylor managed to supply this equalising goal. It came down as a McNamara own goal. You could argue maybe it would have been Johnson Clark-Harris, but I think looking at the replay, it was McNamara who got the final touch, lobbing the ball over Bilkowski to make it 1-1. But Johnson Clark-Harris definitely scored this one. He got subbed on and he made the difference in that game, Johnson Clark-Harris. And we've not seen that too much of him. I think he's only scored his 4th goal so far this season. So you could argue it's been a bit of a disappointing start from him. But if he kicks on and he can start scoring more consistently, he could be Peterborough's life-saving player. They're now 19 points, only 2 points behind Reading. If they can do well at home and can pick up more points at home, then I think Peterborough might have a small chance of surviving. But I definitely would say Peterborough have got to try and pick up more away points. They've got an away game next against Blackpool, which I think is a really crucial game for their season. With Millwall, I think back to square one for me. You know, they've just proven to be a bit of an inconsistent team this season. We then saw Ryan Lowe pick up his first win as Preston manager with a 2-1 victory over Barnsley. For what I saw in the game, the first half for me was a bit disappointing. Preston kept the ball, but they didn't really create a lot of it. They didn't have a shot on target in the first half, and they just weren't looking like they were any dangerous, you know, going forward. It looked very similar to the very pragmatic, very laboured approach that McAvoy was doing. But to be fair to him, I don't know what he said at half time, but they came with all guns blazing. And you've got to give huge credit to Daniel Johnson. He scored one and assisted the first goal. He was the difference in this game. He set up Alan Brown's first goal, brilliant pass on his part and brilliant vision to pick up the runner. Alan Brown shot past Collins to make it 1-0. Now, Barnsley, I felt a bit bad for that they didn't get a penalty when Carlton Morris was fouled in the box. I did think it was a penalty, but the referee did rule it away. But minutes later, they did get an equaliser, which I think was deserved based on the circumstances. Collie Woodrow managing to get a header into the net to make it 1-1. But disappointingly, you know, you would think that Barnsley could have really kicked on from this, and we've seen them improve a bit under Axbaggy. But a free kick was taken, and it was a clever free kick when you look at the replay. But where are the defenders looking at Daniel Johnson? No one closing him down. An easy goal for Johnson, which made it 2-1. So you would argue very disappointingly defending by Barnsley's perspective. But clever play by Preston. This is exactly what Preston needed. A little bit of something different, a bit of creativity and something to excite the fans, which I think is really, really important. With Barnsley, they've been cut adrift ever more. They are now 8 points of safety. Barnsley need to pick up a win sooner rather than later, otherwise it's going to be a very long, hard season for them. Then to the game at the Bet365, it was a 0-0 draw between Stoke and Middlesbrough. I did think it would be a draw, but I didn't anticipate a 0-0 draw, and I'm disappointed, to be honest, because both of the teams combined only had 2 shots on goal. Not one goalkeeper really made a really big routine save, to be honest. Although I am going to show one highlight from the game. Duncan Watmore missed an absolute sitter for Middlesbrough. It was in the first half, and it was the rare time where Middlesbrough actually was able to break through, because I think Stoke were by far the better team in the first half. But Middlesbrough broke through one time on the right hand side, and all Watmore needed to do was hit the target, but then he completely runs away from the ball, gets the ball tangled, and he just can't get a shot across. And that opportunity was lost, and that for me was the closest to any person scoring, to be honest. And it's disappointing, to be honest, because if Middlesbrough got something, it would have really made things interesting in terms of the top 6 competition. But they're still in the competition, and I am seeing some positivity in terms of their defensive structure, where under Neil Warnock it was a little bit non-existent. With Stoke, they've still kept that resilience, but obviously they just had a bit of an off day in terms of trying to score a goal. Now to 5 goals in the Swansea.com stadium, and what a happy return it was for Steve Cooper, seeing his side score 4 past Swansea. Now we've commented on Swansea's high line before, but I think this for me has really taught Swansea a really harsh lesson. If you play with the back line, you've got to take your chances, but also to be prepared to face the consequences if your players don't track back and are not quick enough to track players back. And that is exactly what I saw. Literally 3 of Nottingham Forest's goals came from players outrunning the Swansea players from the right hand side, which that for me is disgraceful, because you need to keep your defensive solidarity. They did not do that whatsoever. Now Zinchenko scored a brilliant goal. Hamer couldn't do anything about it. Grabban scored the second goal. Brilliant play by Brennan Johnson in the right hand side, outpacing the defender. Square ball, and Grabban cooking the ball into the net to make it 2-0. Now Joel Piro scored a brilliant consolation. I do think it was aided with a bit of a deflection, so it looks a little bit better than it already was, but that makes it 2-1. But disappointingly, you know, Nottingham Forest scored 2 quick fire goals. Swansea do well to get back into this, but then a mistake by Ben Hamer. And this is not the first time we've talked about a mistake from Ben Hamer. You know, I'm surprised this sort of conversation wasn't happening sooner. Ben Hamer, in his DNA, makes a mistake. He did it with Huddersfield, and now he's done it with Swansea. A very easy shot, which he just literally can't grasp onto, and Brennan Johnson has the easiest goal he's ever scored to make it 3-1, and that was the killer blow, because that's when Swansea could have really built up to try and get something from this game. When you're 2 goals down now, it's impossible to get back into it, and it's summed up with Forest's 4th. Swansea attack, Forest go straight to the other end and score with Cafu, who is not a prolific goal scorer for Forest at all, to make it 4-1. I gotta say, the warning signs are there. You know, they could definitely take their chances, Swansea, but if they don't, and they keep with this high defensive line, they will get punished for it. They've got to find a balance. They've got to find a better system that makes them more defensively sound, I think. In terms of Forest, their form has been incredible, to be honest. They're unbeaten in 8 games. And following this, they're 8th place, only within a matter of points outside of the top 6. So potentially, Forest might be a team that might sneak in there. You never know. But I'll be very excited to see if Nottingham Forest can get up there in this top 6 race. And the final game, West Brom and Reading, ended 1-0 West Brom. What I will say, it was a pretty dominant performance by West Brom. If you look at the stats, 25 shots to 4. I mean, Callum Robinson had 10 shots, which is over double the amount that Reading, the whole first 11, had in the entire game, which says absolutely everything. Reading didn't have a shot on goal either. West Brom had 11 shots on goal, and really I think should have scored more for what they did based on how they played, but it was only 1 goal that they needed. Carlin Grant on the left hand side, and supplying, you guessed it, Callum Robinson with the ball. Good strike on his part to make it 1-0 to West Brom. Carlin Grant and Callum Robinson have actually been the most common striker assist partnership out of all of the EFL this season. So it doesn't surprise me that these two were working together again to get the goals there. So what I will say with West Brom, the fact they picked up those back-to-back wins and have closed the gap on the top 2 now, with the top 2 fading their form, this is West Brom's time to go. You know, this is their time to try and capture promotion. And I think if they keep this performance going, they will eventually get luck going their way. With Reading, pretty concerning performance. I know it's against West Brom, which are always going to be a tough team, but against the teams around them, Reading need to show more than that. So guys, that is all of the games this weekend. Unfortunately, we don't have Sheffield United and QPR, as I previously said, but this is what the table looks like. So Fulham top, Bournemouth still 2nd, but only 3 points ahead of West Brom. Blackburn 5 points clear of the chasing pack in the top 6, with QPR and Stoke still up there in the top 6. With the teams in danger, you're going to have to look at teams like Hull, Cardiff, Reading, and the bottom 3 still Peterborough, but only 2 points adrift. Barnsley, and still Derby last. So now it's time for the Lexalexus Awards. As always, guys, you guys can always vote for the player, goal, and result for the weekend, and the prediction of the weekend as well. But I'm going to have my picks now. Player for weekend for me, I'll go first. And I'm actually going to give it to Daniel Johnson to score 1, to assist 1. First win with Preston with Ryan Lowe. I think he'll be a very important player in this stage of the season. My player for weekend goes to Daniel Johnson of Preston. Goal of the weekend. Blimey, that's a really, really tricky pick. I am actually going to give it to Luke Plonge's goal for Derby. It's his first goal in his first senior debut, and I think the build up to that goal was something special. So I'm going to give my goal of the weekend to Luke Plonge of Derby. Now finally, result of the weekend. Now there's a couple of results I want to give it to. I have to give it to Bournemouth 0, Blackburn 2. I wanted to give it to Nottingham Forest beating Swansea by 4-1, but I think with the significance of this game alone, I have to give my result of the weekend to Bournemouth 0, Blackburn 2. But that'll wrap it up for today's video, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, please do give the video a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Please do hit the subscribe button if you've not done so. It does really help the channel. And please share this video to as many people as you can. All of that really helps. But that'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of this video. And as always, I'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care, everyone.